What's up, everybody? Deputy, what's up? Can't see chat right now. Huh. Huh. Oh. What you do? Everybody for being here. We were looking for Megan tonight, one of the girls that we're looking for. Got some hot leads on that. So, this girl on Bella Highway, her name's Megan, hangs out around the 4 Mile trailer park. One of my best friends lives in that trailer park. His name's Mike. And then it's the Lake Mead and Vegas area. And, you know, hey, you guys around the area? I'm looking for a missing girl named Megan. A missing girl named Megan. Yeah. She just went missing. So. only guy out here.
At least you got it.
No, I'm the only guy out here on a bike. 4 Mile Park. She's from the lake.
Kind of girls
lake.
Hang out on like Boulder and GI by the 7-Eleven over there.
That's where I'm headed.
Yeah,
you know, but
exactly.
somebody's telling me 4 Mile Park, which is right up the street. But she's from the Lake Mead, Pecos area, so.
I've seen this one. I've seen her like last week over at the corner there. Those kind of people hang out.
I used to work this area. I'm up there fucking Sunset Park area. But I'm the only guy out here giving tents away and all that shit, you know. On bike, you know what I'm saying? All right, guys. I'm CW, so I'll be in this area more frequently on this bike. Okay. So if you guys see me or anything, hit me up. Okay, good. All right. All right. Yeah, that's what everybody's been saying. Everybody I show this flyer to says she's over here on the Boulder Highway Desert Inn area. We're right here at the Desert Inn Boulder Highway area. You know, so we're gonna go see if we can locate her. You know, she's got to know these areas, and I grew up out here. I know these areas. I got friends that live in these areas. You know, you just got to keep it respectful out here. Carry a different demeanor, stuff, and kind of be on their side. You know, that's what you got to come. You got to do. You know, because once you go around and act like shine a crap. You know, all these people that want to, that are YouTubers and live streamers. Well, why don't you ask the homeless people you're exploiting for views and clicks, like Just Nate is, and ask them about shiny crap, you know? I don't know if you mean to be mean or anything, but if you're an outreach helping people, and all you got is a video service, you got cops on your payroll, well, that's the problem. That's the problem from the jump. You got cops on the payroll. You know, I don't care what kind of convictions you have. You've been to prison. I don't care about all that. You know, but you got cops running your program, and your resumes on your website says you're still recovering. I don't like that word recovering. This person's probably going to go to the hospital. It takes 3 weeks to recover, you know, because either you're on the train or you're off the train. There's no in between, you know. I've been recovering for 5 years. Well, Bob, man, for 55 years he's been recovering, and now we're here at his funeral. He's still recovering in the grave, you know. I mean, come on, let's be real. I just don't like that word recovering. You know, it just covers you if you ever relapse. You know, oh, I had a relapse. No, you didn't. You know? The only reason is they're sponsored by the news out here, you know, so that's why they get all their donations and this and that. But, you know, I'm looking into things because I want to make sure 80% of that money that they put on their IRS form goes to the people, we the people, and not to their house payment, car payments, ghost employees, the smurfing, the hide money, you know, and fake vendors, which these nonprofits have not them specifically, but other nonprofits have done that in the past. You know, when you're a 501c, you know, you got to know the law. And I know what I'm looking for. I'm good at sniffing out fraud, embezzlement, all that, you know. Because first of all, you ain't throwing no donations my way, you know. And second of all, uh, I don't like people that take advantage of people and don't say they're taking advantage of them, you know. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to be taking advantage of them. They're not supposed to be taking advantage of them, you know. And that's what you're claiming, that you're helping these people when you're really not, you know. You're just lining your pocket with donations, you know. And there's a lot of nonprofits out there that do it, you know. I can't see chat right now, guys, so you guys got to bear with me. You guys from this area?
I am.
You know Heather?
I just recently moved back out to Vegas.
Well, she just recently went missing.
May I take one of these?
Yeah. She's not in trouble or anything.
Yeah.
You know, people are just worried about her. That's all. You know.
I don't blame it.
And if she contacts me, that's all she has to do is make contact with me. I don't get involved if the police are involved. So
Yeah.
you know, people just worried about her.
Yeah, if I seen her, I will definitely.
I'm CW Media on all social medias.
Yeah.
I do outreach.
Yeah.
So I'm the only guy on bikes that go out and look for people and give away crap. I mean stuff. You know, so everybody's saying 4 mile park up the street and it's 7-Eleven. So you know, Boulder Highway, you want to hang out at these dotties and stuff like that, you know. Says if any of them they got habits or whatever. But it's her mom looking for her, so
Yeah.
I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out.
You know, just have her contact her mom.
All right,
You
we'll
know,
do.
you guys see her. Hang out right here for a minute. See somebody kind of like fitting her description. We're just gonna hang out. Appreciate everybody being here. left my glasses in the car. So, what we want. We're gonna go over here and film this real quick. You know. I'm on my road for this. Well, I'm gonna go back to that store in a minute. I want everybody to know that one of my moderators, family member, parents had a house caught on fire on 4th of July. So, severely damaged. So, there's a GoFundMe out there. If she comes in the chat, she'll probably post it, which I could, I don't mind that. But yeah, fireworks. Fireworks that caught her mom and dad's house on fire, 4th of July. Unfortunately, it didn't destroy the whole house. It caused severe damages. So when she gets in here, she'll probably post, you know. No, I'm not on the radio. I do have my two-way with me. If that's what they're talking about. Let's see if I can grab that. Turn it on. Desert Inn. I'm on Desert Inn and Boulder Highway. Key down on your radio, I'll probably hear you.
Scanning begin. Scanning begin.
Go over this Dottie's too and look around. You know, I like to position myself over there. I can't see out here in the dark, so head over there, back over that way. Ugh.
Frequency mode. Channel mode. Frequency mode. Scanning begin. Channel mode. Scanning begin.
I don't have the FSR radio with me, the family service radio with with, with all those channels. I don't have that with me. I have my ham radio with me. Um, so I don't have the SRS radio, the FRS radio. I don't have that with me. That's the radio you're on. But if you can program a frequency in there, whatever radio you're on, I can give you a frequency to program in. Yeah, these short band radios.
And I read you good audio, good background, but you're good. I appreciate it. I was not expecting such good coverage out here. Anyhow, what was your call sign again? I think I got 571 at the end. 4039. 571. And we're there's lots of repeaters in the Las Vegas area and lots of really good coverage. What we're talking about is probably a range of close to 100 miles.
Yeah.
Copy that. If you hear that if you are that info about Las Vegas, about GMRS Las Vegas, there's a website called lvgmrs.com, and it's got just about anything you want to know about GMRS in Las Vegas area. That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, you're actually the first person I've got there from that is on the have a lot of traffic. I've been monitoring this one and scanning all the rest of them all day long, and I've only heard traffic 2 or 3 times. That day probably a little bit of a slow day for some reason, but there's not a lot of repeater traffic on the day repeaters. I see. Are there any like repeaters in the area that are more active, or is it just yes, there are repeaters in the area that are more active? Just going into ham, so I don't spend a lot of time there.
I do have if you got a radio that can put in a frequency to talk on, then I could provide you that. You got a pen, you want to write it down.
Everybody comes to Vegas, have a good day, have a discount. Great wedding, or you want somebody over here. And I do monitor these frequencies. skiing for most of the rest of the repeaters in town on GMRS. So if I hear you, I'll be on. And they're going to continue up too. So I would say keep your eye.
Looking for a missing girl. I do outreach.
Shut up!
I'm an outreach advocate.
Shut up!
So. She just needs to contact her mom. That's all. Somebody said she was hanging out over here somewhere. I'm the only guy on outreach with a bike, so you know. That's what everybody said.
Yeah.
You know, but you can look like this at just about anybody out here, you know. I do outreach over there at Sunset Park. That's my area. But I'm the only guy out here on the bike, so anybody need Narcan or anything? No Narcan, nobody needs any? The what?
So basically, he was saying, yeah.
Yeah. You need some?
Yeah.
You guys, you need some? Huh? No. I'm CW, the outreach guy. You know? No. My prison record's in my wallet if you want to see it. Yeah. I'm not trying to get killed out here. You know, I'm not trying to get hit. Yeah. I used to work this area, so a lot of people over here know me. Huh? Giving out tents, sleeping bags, food, Narcan. Huh? Giving away stuff.
That's not working too. Where's the money?
I have a certificate in.
Yeah.
I don't need no.
Oh. Oh no.
Come on, bro.
All right. What? All right. Yeah, let me give you that frequency in a minute. Be over here, the Dotties. Go in there. Give them a flyer. up, man?
How's it going?
Looking for a missing girl. I don't know, maybe you guys have contact with her or something. Everybody says she's over here in this area a lot, so she's not in any trouble. She just needs to contact her mom. You know?
No. I don't recognize her, but I can contact my dispatcher saying a bolo.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I take a photo of this?
Yeah. Go ahead. You want a copy of one?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'll do it.
Yeah. You go ahead and keep that one.
I'll keep this.
Yeah. Other one.
I'll put a bolo out there for
Yeah.
if we notice anything.
Yeah. So she'd probably catch the bus out this way. You know, you know what goes on in the area, so.
Of course.
You know, I used to do the outreach out here in this area a year and a half ago, but I moved farther up. So they say she hang out over here at 7-Eleven or at the 4 Mile Park. And 4 Mile Park, that's these are the girls that hang out over there are you know, the lot lizards, you know.
Right.
You know, up there. But
yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't personally recognize her, but I want my dispatcher to know if we can I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if anything, there's a well, if anything, we'll just call it.
Follow up with it. Yeah. Or if you run into her, just have her call her mom. That's it. You know.
We'll do.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Uh-huh. All right here. You want to write this frequency down? 462 675 dot 675.
462.675.
Yeah, that's my frequency.
Be soaking wet like using the shower. That is definitely the way it was where I'm from.
What was your name?
CW. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah.
462.675.
Yeah, that's my frequency.
All right, I got it.
Uniforms, of course. I'd go home, take my uniform, and I would literally have to take it off and wring the sweat out of it, and then hang it up because they gave us bags to throw the uniform. But if I just threw the uniform, they still did most of it.
All right, let me get out of here. Thank you, guys. It's the Boulder Station Casino has that flyer. And then, .675 is the frequency you put in. What's up, guys? Just an outreach guy. Looking for a missing girl out here. YouTuber. Yeah, I think it's 5. I got a 5-mile reach. You know, unless I was near some mountains or something, that'd be a different story. I don't know. Can you hear me? Are you there? Yeah, I've got it set. Are you there? Are you there? Can you hear me? You got your radio on? Talking about Wendy's. uh, all kinds going on over here. Yeah. Uh, uh, uh. You guys know a girl named Megan out here that's missing?
spend at least
Yeah, I know where those encampments are, but I'm not gonna go down there during the daytime. Only during the daytime, for simple fact, all those people I've already encountered tonight, they were all had big old 8-inch knives on them, you know, hatchet knives, all kinds of stuff. So, you know, so, uh, ugh.
Five on seven's not working.
Can't see chat. Yeah, it's over here in the area, you know. So
Now look at you.
did my backpack hit that? Because I was just like this. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't my fault.
I'm not on 7 no more. I'm on 13.
Yeah, something over it. I don't know. It could be a Coke tin. It's still over there screaming. Maybe that pump don't work. I don't know. Whoopsie daisies. I got an oscillate fan on my bike now, so I can stay at least a little bit cool. Yep. What up, everybody? We're just in the area waiting for people to walk by. Food channel. Yeah, right. Uh, so we're gonna talk about this bartenders and stuff out here in Las Vegas. So these smaller pubs out here, even the bigger ones, the corporations that went corporate. I'm not gonna mention their names, but there were several GM females that worked for this place, and uh, and they were the faces of the company. You know, uh, the company is kind of like Beat Tees, but it rhymes with Beat Tees. you know. I'm not gonna say exactly what company it is, but my wife was straight out of culinary school. She went to work for these places because I had some connections there. You gotta remember, I worked in all these restaurants since I was 16 years old, and for like 15 years, I was good at what I did, and I was a manager at all these places. Uh, the Lodge, I was kitchen manager uh, for the Miller brothers, Gary Miller, and all them former Las Vegas Metro police officers that owned the Bighorn, the Longhorn, Chubby's, Rascals, and the ranches. And I used to work for them. I worked swing shift at one, day shift at the other. Real good people. Uh, they still own them. His brother runs the one over there on Boulder Highway. Claude's the kitchen manager over there. I worked for him. Manager at the Bighorn and one of his other places. Long story short, everybody knows everybody. In this business out here, bartenders that work these smaller bars, they got to know each other. They got to be on some kind of, need to know basis. But they also are the middlemen, the brokers with the cocaine cowboys, which drive big jacked up trucks, little short guys. I don't know why they don't need a ladder. When I was my first commercial write up happened to be at the Lodge when they sold them, right? Over off the N Road 95, that lodge over there. And what it was, because I know a lot of people, I know a lot of bartenders, and what they do is they go to each other's bar and support each other. That's just the thing they do. But everybody knows who is who. And if you need something, if you're one of those high executives, or you got that plus job with the city, state, whatever it is, government, and you're doing a little bit of something you're not supposed to be doing, these guys would come, drop off whatever code you put in their phone and what bar code location, and they go in the bathroom and drop it off in there. So there was never a money hand exchange, whatever the customer wanted, the high roller customer, he got through the middlemen, the brokers, the bartenders. That's just the way it was. Went on for many years. And then when Green Valley Security killed that one bartender a couple years back, I happen to know that bartender. And then I know the struggles he was going through, but he got caught up in that whole scene. And there was another bartender that committed suicide too, right? Or supposedly it was suicide. So, tightening up loose ends. Well, the one GM that worked for that bar that rhymes with Beat Tees, right? She's dating the regional manager. They ended up getting married. They're divorced now. But while she was there, she was training all the girls, recruiting the girls for her adult entertainment business license that she got. And they were doing extras out in the parking lot, customers. And that's what goes on at some of these bars, where certain individuals work at. Exactly part of the human trafficking. So she would recruit some of these good-looking bartenders to be part of her adult website, adult film production company. And then she opened up a swingers club, right? And if you go in and you read all the terms and conditions, corporate lawyer wrote that, right? But who backed her? Who financed her? The guys that own those gas stations that just bought, Trim, or their partner that just sold out, where you can't even look at his taxes because he sold the business of the ones on Boulder Highway, Decatur, and the Stratosphere, Sartinis, right? That they got a 100-year lease or whatever, and they'll keep the license and control everything that goes on inside the property, but they don't own the structures or anything. $1 billion deal. So once you go corporate, that's how it works. Once you put everything in corporate, it's publicly traded. That's where I get good at investigating stuff like this, right? Well, every business ain't on its own. Now, whatever business ain't making the overhead, the other businesses cover their costs. So there's no write-offs when it's corporate. So they inflate their numbers. They have a liquor license and food license for X amount of machines, unless you're grandfathered in. I think the limit's 15. You know, that majority of your sales can't be for drinking and gaming. It has to be like equal parts to food too. So they just can't comp and give away food like people think they can. They just can't, because that'd go against them. This guy ended up being the owner, was the only person in the United States that was ever levied a fine by the Gaming Commission for $1 million for trying to bribe a gaming official. They got hit over $1 million fine. So these guys, you know, took Patrick's bar, you know, well, I said GT, you know, not the, rhymes with GT, right? Where that used to be the Saturday and Friday thing to go to is that bar when Patrick owned it before he sold out. Because that's where all the hot bartenders worked at. That is where all you go there and cash your paycheck. You got good deals on wings, hamburgers, and fries and burgers. You know, that was the place to be at. So they took that all away. They ruined that image, you know. Right. So the swinging clubs that are out here, they're in neighborhoods, but they do in their own house as their business. But they're charging an arm and a leg. You know, if you need some arm candy, and they're real big on the submissive lifestyle. The submissives is that BDSM, 50 Shades of Grey stuff. And if you meet a girl and you try to recruit girls from other countries and you come out here, right? And if they recruit you, they usually go meet up at a bar. And when I saw the Sally girl meet up at the Timbers over there in that neighborhood, I was like, okay, you know, here we go, right? Because now you're signing NDAs and contracts to be somebody's personal, well, let's just say assistant, we'll use that word, right? For say 6 months or a year or something like that, 90 days, 60 days, where you're stripped of all. You can't contact your family, can't be on social media, you can't have a phone, you know, and you basically, you know, you're submissive to these people. So that's the backstory to this stuff. And is that what happened to Sally? We don't know, but that's what goes on out here in Las Vegas. I used to be part of that world, investigating it back in the day, so I know a lot about it. So you just don't go missing. You don't come out here to Vegas to meet up with somebody potentially that got you in that lifestyle, or maybe it's a lifestyle you want to be in, but you know, we don't know. We just don't disappear like that. Now, if she went towards Mount Charleston, over off the Sky Canyon Drive was the last time she was seen, 1:30 in the afternoon. It was hot. It was 108 degrees that day on the 20th. And the place is filled with rattlesnakes because it's the lower climate right there with the canyons. And that's where all the mountain lions are. Right there populated in that area. So let's hope nothing bad happened to her, you know. But only plausible other way, she wasn't human trafficking. So the human trafficking part of that swinger lifestyle is these people are connected from state to state. This girl that was the face of GTs, right? She gave my wife a write-up for something stupid, and I got her fired. Got her fired because I sent all the owners and them guys all of her websites and everything. You know, when I investigate somebody, I'll get the dirt on you, right? So that's what I did. She got fired, or basically, it got swept under the rug, and she couldn't be part of the GTs no more. But the value of her home is over $1 million, and that's where some of the clubs are that meet there. And it just opened up another $1 million place in Dallas Fort Worth area in Texas. Where'd you get that kind of coin? You know, she was teaching these bartenders and stuff like that want to be on her team how to seduce customers to do this and do that and recruit them to where she would have them basically going to the parties and everything like that on a contention of, there's potential money to make here, and everything. So, is that what happened? We don't know. But, I know there's a lot of people would be in trouble, because the cocaine cowboys. And that's a tight group. Those bartenders are a tight group. Matter of fact, I just passed 2 bars that have some of those bartenders working there while we're on Desert Inn that I worked with. But I seen what went down over there at the lodge, and I kind of said something. Well, I went out there and talked to some girls and stuff like that I knew from other bars and other places that. Well, I was doing Sonny, who was running the lodge as the head chef. I was doing Sonny a favor by working this place. He's like, chill down, take a notch out of your resume, just be a line cook. I don't need you to be running my kitchen and all that stuff, but I need you as backup, right? I did him a favor, and he go give me a write up for being out there in the bar during graveyard, because I knew people, customers and stuff like that. And these guys, they signed NDAs. These bartenders at these bars, they sign NDAs where they can't poach other customers at other bars and stuff like that to get them to come over to their bar. They sign contracts like that, right? I didn't sign no contract, And then when you walk in the bathroom, you got guys in there snorting cocaine off the counter. That's a problem, nobody's paying me to keep my mouth shut. So, and that's the difference between me and everybody else. You grease the palm, grease the glove. If it's not worth it, but if it is something that is potentially dangerous or endangers others and stuff like that, then money can't keep my mouth closed. So I got a write up. That really pissed me off because 15 years working in the restaurant business, I never ever in my life had a write up. And then it's like I just basically walked off, because I sat there and explained to him. I said, I did you a favor, buddy. You know what I'm saying? And you bring me into this nonsense over here, and then when I go over to this bar or that bar, I know everybody over there, the same people are over here, So it's one big connected circle out here. It's really hard to get a tight grip on it unless you got somebody working on the inside with police or whatever, or the feds or whatever. But they're really sophisticated in their operation and how they do things. But these women that are trafficked in these swinger lifestyle clubs, BDSM world, they're moved from state to state, at their own free will because they signed up for it. They signed up that 1 year contract to be somebody's personal submissive, where you can't have contact with your family, you can't do this, you can't do that, and a lot of these girls get drawn into that, and a lot of these girls, they go missing for that obvious reason, And it's not because something bad happened to them. They're just on an NDA or a contract and can't go public of their lifestyle. Then they get so addicted to that lifestyle, they don't even want to contact family or anybody anymore. You know what I'm saying? Because they're into a different lifestyle that is beneficial to them financially. And that's where it lays. You know, uh, do I know some of the players and this and that? Yeah, I do. Sure, I do. But I don't come forward. I don't come off information like that. You know, so I want to stay alive. you know, it's just stuff that it's knowledge that I've gained, knowledge that I keep to myself because it helps me with the stuff I do out here. I've known who's who, what players, what places to avoid, which ones are doing what, where, when, and why. And, it's just if the cops can't figure it out, I'm not going to help them figure it out. And that's where it all comes into play. You know, and I've seen this stuff go down. And I'm not saying if there's city officials, county officials, government officials involved in this core group. I'm not going to say that, but could be. I'm not. Ask me no questions. I'll tell you no lies. I plead the fifth. You know, so you know, it's just one big revolving circle, man. You know, and they're really sophisticated how they communicate with each other, how they use coded words and numbers, and what this number means and what that number means, and it's you know, I mean, and these people are part of the big human trafficking out here. And it didn't really sit well when the Las Vegas Metro vice officers, the one lead detective, gets busted. You know, running a legal business with girls. And I'm not saying he was part of that, but uh, I just leave it there. But when you got people like that protecting your front and your back door, and you're six, is what they call it. You're six. That's an issue. You know, but it continues. You know, Heidi Fleiss that lives down the street from me, right off of Eastern. Uh, she looks like a saint compared to this core group, this hardcore core group. She looks like a saint. Uh, Tomorrow is the annual bondage ball, the BDSM bondage ball at 601 Fremont Street tomorrow. I will be there documenting everything that's going there on the outside where I can legally be. I will be there documenting stuff, uh, recording faces or whatever because they're in public, uh, and going over a bunch of flyers and stuff like that. Um, and basically, that's the only reason I would be there for, just to document, record people's faces and stuff like that or whatever. Unless they got those masquerade masks on, a lot of them do wear those. And when you got people, females or guys, and don't get me wrong, guys, young-looking guys are trafficked just as much as women are. And people just don't look into that part of it. But the guys are just as much trafficked uh, than as the girls are. But it's a lifestyle that is big. It's like being in a bingo club or something, or being part of a fishing, tour or something, or a golf club or something. This lifestyle, the swinger and the BDS uh, lifestyle, they go hand in hand, and it's a big business. It's a multi-billion-dollar business a year, and all these clubs, and they go on these cruises, they fly to other countries and stuff like that. It's all connected, man, to a core group. You really don't need a business license to operate these things. You can operate in any neighborhood out here, because what you do in your house that's your business. You know, just because you got this going on, that going on, doesn't mean you're actually doing that. You know what I'm saying? Uh, so, uh, but that's usually, and I'm not saying that's what happened to Sally, you know, but it just, it, if you looked at the map that I posted, where she was last spotted, all the places she was spotted at, and where all these clubs and these hidden hidden places in the neighborhoods and stuff. I did an overlay on the map of where she was at, and it coincides with you know those clubs, you know those private clubs, you know. Uh, so it's just coincidental or ironic. I don't know, but that's where I'm at with it, you know. But there's a lot of web sleuths out there and stuff like that. I don't watch those information channels because when I go in and do the things I do, you know, I don't need the information, what's on a sheet, what's been told to me, or anything like that. You know, because I can pretty much guess what happened. You know, and I know enough in Vegas where all the bad neighborhoods are and stuff like that to where I could probably pinpoint or whatever. I'd work a grid over there in that area or whatever. And I know a lot of people in certain areas I can just ask questions to. You know, but you know, I don't get paid for my time, so uh, I'm not doing nobody any favors. You know, all these other YouTubers and all these other people, social media influencers that make money and you know for all the wrong reasons and ask for money for their habits and stuff like that. You know, I don't do that. So and because of that, you know, I just don't. I don't push in camps as hard as I should. You know, because I could be out there, you know, 10 hours, 12 hours a day. But you know, I'm not going to do that. I mean, I'm one person, and when you have, you know, the feds, you have Metro, you have all these task forces and stuff like that. You know, that's hundreds of people, thousands of people. You know, I'm one guy. How am I finding these people? One guy finding these people. You know, I mean, it's because you got to think outside the box. You got to know who's who. You know, what's what. And you got to look at it and analyze and do a profile on that person's life and lifestyle of little bits of information you got. Because you get these baiters out there that clickbait, you know, for views, you know, and want to throw out all their conspiracies and stuff like that. I don't listen to those people. I have to go in it fresh on my own with just a minimal of information, and I'll get results, you know, every time. But you know, I don't get paid to be out there, so and it costs money to put gas in your car, you know. So, uh, you know, as much as I want to problem solve and stuff like that, and go look for these people and take my side by side out to the desert, the Mojave Desert, and all that stuff, and look for some things that's going on out there currently, and look for Kelsey and that Timothy guy out there or Jeremy, uh, you know, because I used to be connected to a core group back in the uh, late '90s out there, and I don't know if they're brothers and sisters and cousins are all out there still operating and stuff. I don't know because I just that's not my lifestyle. Uh, you know, it's just something to where I was, you know, protecting them from, you know who, uh, you know, I had guys on the inside too. So, uh, but you're making money that way, and definitely something going on out there. You know, Kelsey needs to come home. Jeremy needs to come home. You know, these are people's loved ones, and they need to come home. Even though I have my own issue with my nephew's body, still hasn't been found after 4 years. After a bunch of old guys beat him up over human trafficking out in Searchlight, and then 4 years later they want to go out and question him. after they got rid of the mobile home, after they got rid of the vehicle that transferred his body into? No. Uh, you know, now they want to go question these suspects, you know? So that kind of irritates me. So, but, you got to find people, you know? The Kylie Ronde thing up there in Lake Tahoe, where they couldn't find her, right? Through my search and rescue, uh, swift water training, we would train where they would submerge vehicles in the river or whatever, and with some with the windows up, some with the windows one window down, some with three windows, all four windows down, and we'd watch the language. We'd watch how they would act, in the river, you know, or lake. We'd watch it and see how the cars would flip over on its own and stuff and everything. So, and there's people in this chat that would tell you when people steal cars and the cops are chasing them or whatever, they really don't make left turns; they make right turns. You got to remember that. So when they start bubbling a suspect in a stolen car, when they start bubbling them, they're going on off right turns. Which direction he would go if he made a right turn? And usually, it's right turns are you know uh, southeast. You know, so you got to remember that. So when she left that party, if she was intoxicated, she probably made a right turn because it comes naturally. And if she did that, then she went into the water. Probably the car flipped upside down. That's why nobody could see it or find it. I forward that information. That's why there's 10 FBI agents out there. Why would the FBI be involved with something like that? I never left my house. There's a $50,000 reward on that, and I didn't look for the recognition. I didn't want no credit for it, stuff like that. And these people that have these gossip, conspiracy channels and stuff like that, really don't know the guy that tipped the feds off, you know, uh, anonymously, to get my $50,000 reward, you know. And then there was another one that came up down there in Scottsdale. I have kids with autism. I know how they act to water. I know how they are fascinated by water. It's a trickling effect. It's a soothness thing that they do. And when this guy, Juby, we call him Juby out of Scottsdale, goes missing, uh, you know, he went missing. And when I zoomed in on his parents' house, I noticed there was a wash or a canal, active wash and canal that ended at a dam, miles away. I said, if he got no water, he's done. It's going to be a recovery. It's been over, I don't know, 6 months or six. I can't remember. I think 6 months or something like that, and nobody can find him. And then I made a video about it. I uploaded the video, and I drew a map where the dam ended, and his body would probably be there. And lo and behold, that's where they found him. And they ripped me out of $100,000, right, by using my video to find this kid's body. Regardless, and that shouldn't have never happened. If it wasn't for me, and I'm sitting at home. I got kids with autism. I know how they act. Every time we get near water, a beach, a river, a lake, my daughter, who at the time was nonverbal, she'd just beeline it, clothes, shoes, everything on, and run directly right into the water. And if you research and you do like I did on my video, a lot of these kids with autism that go missing, are end up found deceased in bodies of water, a swimming pool, a creek, a river, because they're it's just something that they're attracted to, and so I knew that. When I got twins with autism, so I have the higher up level of autism on one kid and the lower spectrum of the other one. So you get both sides of it. You get the high end functioning one, and then you get the low end one. So for 21 years, there's no book out there on autism. There's no classes. some of these autism groups out here are just as bad as these outreaches, because they can't give you help. When my daughter went on she tried to take me and mom out and try to hurt herself. And if you saw 6 years ago, they did a story about that Moo Moo character that was popping up on kids' uh, games and stuff like that, inciting, take, take your life type thing. And I guess she was trying to mimic that character or everything. For 3 weeks, we couldn't get her into any type of therapy, get her on medication. We had to take her to the emergency room 3 times a day for 3 weeks. The best insurance money could buy. And it's like, we didn't know who she was. It's like a poltergeist entered her body. I'm telling you, it's the most scared I've ever been in my life. I've had guns pulled on me. I've had guns put to the back of my head. I wasn't that scared, But with my daughter, different story. And the whole thing is, it's just, I reached out to the president of the autism program at UNLV. He had nothing for us. He couldn't do anything for us. So why you got a program that coexists at UNLV then? If the president can't refer you to somebody or get you help for your daughter, that's an issue. I figured, the university would the president would, of the autism program there, would at least have some kind of resources. No, they didn't have anything. It's pretty sad. Uh, so I can't read the comments. I don't got my glasses. That we this type of world, and it takes a community to work together to problem solve, to find people, to help one another, not one another, and lift people up where they need to be lifted up, instead of kicking the dog when it's down all the time. And that's what the communities are supposed to do. I'm sorry to say that the community policing that I grew up with is not like today, you know, because you can get more accomplished with, bike patrols in neighborhoods and at parks and all that stuff, and access and get to people than you could with a drone, or uh, and when we had that elite bicycle team out here in the 90s, if you were in any type of nefarious, you know, nefarious things, you didn't go in those neighborhoods when those bike patrols were over there, because they clean out the areas. We don't have that nowadays. The only time you see the bike patrols, maybe on the strip, sniffing out the pot smokers, or down there at the stadium, or at events. That's where you find bike patrol. You won't find them along Boulder Highway. You won't find them, along Fremont Street. You just won't find them anywhere like that. You won't find them in Naked City anymore. You just won't find those people, those bike patrols anymore. And they were a big impact on our community. No, not no more. And all this stuff that goes on these bike trails with some bad actors. Not all are bad. And when that happens, you know, uh, you know, uh, it's sad. It's very very sad that we depend on drones. What's drone going to do? Every time I pull up to an intersection, I see people sitting in their car smoking weed. You know, behind the driver's wheel. You can't smell that with a drone or a helicopter. You know, you can't. You can't. You can't smell that kind of stuff. Uh, so, but if you're on bikes like I am, and I'm at the intersection, I can see it and I can smell it. That should be an issue, right? but not with them. You know, that's just sad that we live in a place like that. A community that most of our law enforcement are busy. Most of our law enforcement's busy directing traffic at all these high end events. You know, foot patrol and all this stuff at these events. You know, and sitting behind computers watching cameras, and not that's not being proactive. That's not stopping crime. You know, that's it. That's not interfering in you know and we used to be a community where we cared about our neighbors, we cared about each other, we cared about the community we grew up in. Well, that's not like that here in Las Vegas no more. The only thing they care about is allocating wasted dollars to Bola Highway. Now, Bola Highway project now got allocated all that money to beautify it and put a thing down the middle of it, a bus down the middle of it. Understand this? That's already been that was funded 3 different times. You know, that was funded 3 different times. How many times we're going to fund it? All that, all that underground tunneling and water stuff. With the flooding here in Las Vegas back in 1980 when I was here. Imperial Palace, where Caesar's Palace is. It was flooding there, and that was back in 1980. And they still haven't fixed the problem with millions and millions and millions of dollars allocated to those drainage canals. And nobody's bringing that up. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's bringing it up like they should. It's already been funded. Still, nobody's brought up the question: where all this money that was supposed to go to schools and all this stuff and shelters and the homeless programs with the cannabis sales here in Nevada. Nobody has questioned that, or they just don't talk about it. Because where are those funds, the millions of dollars that they made off these people's licenses and their businesses? It's sitting in a general fund now, according to Lombardo. Uh, where's that money going to? You know, um, yeah. So there's a lot of questions to ask. But I stay on top of it. I keep my eyes open. I monitor stuff that goes on, but I don't use my platforms to be political or chase those type of news stories. I just go after the key players that are involved in it, and I start investigating their finances and see if there's anything funny going on. Um, is what I do, and that's what happened to that $5 million fraud ring here in Las Vegas that got busted. You know, because they approached me, you know, inside a mall, and I knew what the scam was, and I knew what they were doing. And what they did was they didn't give me a piece of the cake. So, you know, not going to use my personal information or any of my family members' personal information for financial gain. when, illegally, that's what they call kickbacks, right? I didn't get no kickbacks, so I wasn't playing along with their silly game. Shouldn't have never approached me in the mall because I'm not stupid. I know of all the running scams that are out there, but I just play dumb all the time. So you guys bring me a burger, man? Oh, come on. Eh. Yeah, so gotta be careful. Know who's who. Like Steven Seagal on that ship, that he was on. He was just a cook, right? Yeah. Well, I was just a cook too at one time, but I grew up with a lot of law enforcement out here in Las Vegas and everything when I grew up. Um, so they taught me the wrong ways of doing things, and I'm the one that got thrown under the bus. So, but you sit there as a kid and you grow up with Adam 12 and watching Chips every day and Starsky and Hutch, and you go, oh my God, I want to be a cop when I grow up, or something like that. But then, they pull you in the office. They pull you in the office with your wife and says, you know, we'd hire you, but I guess they figured it out. He said, this is what they said straight up. My ex-wife will tell you. They said, because I don't look the other way. I was like, no, I'm not looking the other way. You want dishonesty like that? No, I'm done. I'm not looking the other way because I wouldn't look the other way on things that had occurred or happened or passed, you know, because it's something I experienced. So, because I experienced it gives me a right. I can talk about it. And I'm not going to bring up what I experienced, but, only in certain crowds and circles you bring it up and talk about it because those other people are on the same level. Uh, but the thing is, it's just, I wouldn't look the other way, so I would be somebody that I wouldn't be a trusted person. So they wouldn't hire me as an officer. It's like, okay, you know, okay, I'll take my memories with me. You know, I'll keep them to myself. You guys can get your pensions and your retirements, and that happens. That happens everywhere. There's a lot of departments across the nation that you know, and it just makes all the good officers look bad. And there are some good officers out there. When you got those officers that retire after 40 years, 30 years, 35 years, 25 years, that's a good officer. You know, um, but it's that handful of bad apples that that ruin it for all the good officers. Because who you trust when they're the single persons that you're supposed to trust, and then you lose that trust. Uh, in ways social media and all these people are nowadays. You know, cameras don't lie. So and that's basically where I'm at with everything. And it's my knowledge. It's my knowledge that gets me in more trouble than anything. It's my knowledge, because I know police tactics and all that and everything, and how they conduct investigations and operations, and that gets me in trouble. I mean, I don't mess around. I mean, I carry. I mean, I have. I do have a. Like that's a drone. I can pop this drone up at any time. There's a drone inside there. You know, my $9,000 drone with the flare and the night vision that sits in my closet in a aluminum type case, and I use that for my own advantage. I don't go out looking for if it was a toddler or a kid that was missing out in the wilderness or at a lake I was camping at, yeah, because I'd take that with me anyways. I would use my equipment to look for that person. Because it's a kid. He's innocent. He didn't do nothing wrong. But to break my equipment out like that, my $9,000 drone, and do that out here. No, because at the end of the day, if it breaks or something happens to it or something like that, I got to I've got to eat the cost of repair. I got to eat the cost, And like I said, I'm out here, because I know how it is to have somebody missing and a loved one, and it's just I'm on my own time and dime, you know, and nobody of all the Las Vegas streamers here, and I'm monetized, I ain't getting super chats, ain't nobody throwing me a cash app, ain't nobody doing this, nobody doing that, so if you go support the toxic streamers, the racist streamers, you know, and the Mats, you go support his cheeseburger habits, and then the drunks habits. You go support all those people. The fat guy that I have a problem with because we grew up together, and something happened at a party. I'm not going to discuss over social media. He knows what happened, back in our day, and then he sits down there on Fremont like a fat pig he is. I mean, fat guy he is. And just eating up his, just he's just killing the pay pigs that send him money. He'll tell them anything they want to hear, to get them to send him money and all this stuff. And he's not really a nice guy, you know. But that's because we grew up in the same area and stuff like that, and attended the same teenage, over 18 parties, house parties and stuff, you know, back in our day. But I don't talk about all that. That's something I've had to talk to him beside, you know. Um, but it's just I ain't got time for that. He'll, karma always gets those people, So I'm not gonna, I'm not, I'm not one of those spill the tea type guys, or I'm gonna dish on him or something like that. I'm not gonna do that. That's something that him and me know about because I was there when it happened, and I'm not gonna give out any information in regards to what happened. So. So people go run over his chat when he's live going, what CW is saying about you? Yeah, so I'm not one of those guys that do that, spill the tea type and gossip. And everybody's got their own ways of getting their clicks and views, and it's all, it's all good. But then you get some out there that they're so fraudy, you know. Uh, I don't turn on my camera, you know. Now, if sponsors and companies and endorsements, stuff like that want to sponsor me, that's a different story. As individuals, no, I don't look for those sponsors, because I don't need it. I turn on my camera so people can see what I'm doing night and day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And I don't beat on anybody else's drum. I don't dance to anybody else's tune. I do things the way I do it, and that's just the way it is. So that's why I don't work for organizations. That's why, I'm a flipper. I do house flips, construction, uh, I, and I'm a reseller. So I buy high-end stuff for real cheap, and I mark it up at least about 60% of the price. Less. So if it's like $500, I'd mark it down 60%, sometimes 50%, just to push it and get it gone. Because for what I got into it, uh, that's how I survive. That's how I make my money. That's how I make my money. That's how I do go out. I donate plasma twice a week. And the plasma that I donate, that money goes to finance the tents, the sleeping bags, and all that stuff that I give away. So the plasma saves people's lives. And I think the stuff that I'm doing, giving out tents and sleeping bags and trying to make people feel comfortable out here on the streets, regardless of what kind of addictions or whatever they're going through in life. I'm not a counselor. You know, uh, Psychiatrists get paid to hear your problems, not me. Uh, I just want to make sure they got a roof over their head because of the weather, the elements, or whatever. And for what the discounted price I get stuff for, I just give it away. And I don't record my accolades like Just Nate does. But what Just Nate's doing out here, in my town, is he's exposing where all these campsites are for the police, basically, because the police are watching his channel. There's people that don't want to be filmed because they're either running from somebody or something, or the law. They don't want to be filmed, but he just goes ahead and films them anyways. Because people don't care if you're filming them, if you're giving them a pair of socks and a sub sandwich, right? But he's exploiting these people, making about $20,000 per video, and 100% of that money goes in his pockets, and none of it goes back to them. So if you're going to use somebody, and that's exploitation, just like human trafficking, you're exploiting these people for monetary gain, and that needs to be addressed with these social media companies. Uh, and if any of these people, because I'll go behind Just Nate, and I'll go talk to all those people and provide them an attorney, a number, just like the attorneys that sued the bum fights people, you know, right? And got money for all of those people that were involved with the bum fights back in the day that happened here in Vegas. Well, Just Nate's doing the same thing, you know, but he's being low tier about it, like And I don't like people who exploit other people for financial gain, like he's doing. 1.5 million, subscribers. I mean, I don't need a barrage of people coming after my channel because uh, it's just I live here. I was born and raised here, and you come here and you visit, and you want to get $500,000-600,000 of clip, giving back to our community, but filming it, exposing these people's faces, exposing the whereabouts of where they're sleeping at in tunnels or whatever, and then the cops go behind and hit those tunnels 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, and that's what's been happening. I'm not saying that he's intentionally doing it for the cops, but that's the kind of stuff. That's why you don't film their locations. That's exactly 100% why you don't film their locations, because of that. The cops went around and cut up all my tents. You think that was right? You know, there's nothing in their description of their job that says you get to destroy people's personal property. And if it's a safety issue, that we can't see if anybody's in there. Well, that's why you got flare detection to see if there's any you know uh, body images in there. That's why you have canines to sniff out anybody in there. You don't have to cut open the tent with a knife. You really don't have to do that. And that'll be their excuse why they do it. For law enforcement, protection. But that still ain't an excuse why you should be doing it. And it's sad that it's come to that here in Las Vegas. So, but you know, uh, yeah, they do. You know, uh, you're right, Ronnie. So this is Community Watchdog Media, and I'm going to get off here. Thank you for everybody for being here. Thank you for all my moderators. Thank you.